Now that's something you don't see every day.
Yeah, how the hell did he get the fire to spurt out of the horse's feet?
I don't know, maybe the stallion runs on diesel or unleaded petrol.
Where can I buy one of them? Do you think they come in metallic paint?
Have you tried the local pet shop, or how about the stupid skeleton accessory store? You can really ask some daft questions at times. How do you expect me to know?
Oh, never mind all that, Johnson. Just open the envelope and find out what it's all about.
I'm not touching it.
You're not going to get cursed for reading a bit of paper.
I don't want to take that chance. Plus, it's still a national offense to read other people's mail.
You're full of crap, Johnson. Don't worry, I'll read the bloody thing. You just tell them no good bunch of dirty, rotten cowards to withdraw from their hiding places. The stupid skeleton has gone and half his way across the universe, judging by the speed he shot off.
With laughter under his breath, Johnson commanded the zombie regiment out of the buildings and back onto the streets, ready to bite and fight, whilst John opened his envelope.
What does it say?
I'll read it to you.
Dear Captain John Stevens, Agent Johnson and the rest of your band of living dead losers are invited to my birthday party this Saturday night, from midnight onwards. Look for the green-painted cottage house in Bramshaw. Don't be late. Bitchella.
The Cap paused while scratching his head before asking,
How does this man know our names, and how come he described my army so well?
She is not he or a person. In fact, she is a bitch. Sorry, I meant witch.
Well, she's certainly got the name for it anyway. Is she one of your ex-girlfriends? And is this the reason you stopped me from going to London to visit the Queen and took me to Scotland instead? I mean, do you still have feelings for her?
Yes, I wouldn't mind killing her, but as for us arriving in Scotland, have you forgotten whose fault that was?
The FBI man replied, feeling somewhat glum as he reminisced on some upsetting memories, whilst John stood wincing at him, sensing he wasn't too fond of this Bitchella woman.
What do you mean?
He asked regarding Johnson's question, thinking to himself, what the hell is he talking about?
With all due respect, Cap, you need to go back to the desert and find that rock we left behind. Tell him or her how grateful you are for the power you've been given. But for Christ's sake, could you please have your brain reinstalled? I mean, just think about it for a minute. We stole that ship all the way from Baghdad. As for what we were doing there in the first place, I don't know.
Johnson paused while shaking his head and continued.
We spent hours arguing before agreeing to travel to England, and what did you do?
What do you mean, I did what?
John interrupted, as he wasn't entirely happy with Johnson's tone of voice.
You went and ate the only person we had that could navigate the ship to England. You just couldn't help yourself. And after we crashed the Titanic, causing everyone to bail out, you had the cheek to give Joe a sailor's uniform and ask him if he knew anything about driving a ferry when you already bloody know. The poor bloke can't remember what planet he was born on, let alone the hospital and country, and the closest he ever got to sailing or navigating a ship was riding his skateboard down a hill on a busy high road, trying his best to stop himself from crashing into a lorry or parked bus, or hitting an old lady, sending her shopping trolley through the air. Sometimes you're just unbelievable.
The Cap stood in silence. He realized what he did was wrong, but after pondering his cruel and selfish actions, he decided to defend himself.
Look, Johnson, you saw how pretty she was. Any zombie in his normal frame of mind would have done the same as I did. I couldn't help myself. I knew she was our only navigator, but something inside me asked if I was a man or a mouse, so I ate her. I'm sorry I shouldn't have acted like that.
You're damn right.
Yeah, but she did taste delicious.
I don't really want to know about your sex life.
Replied Johnson, thinking to himself, stupid zombie. As the Cap stood motionless, he knew he'd rattled the FBI man's cage and needed to change the subject fast.
Tell me all you know or what you can remember about this witch, but I want the truth.
It's a lengthy story.
Don't worry, son. I've got all the time in the world.
Was he just referring to me as his child?
Johnson wondered, for it seemed like after a few home truths, John was ready to break the rule again, or maybe he'd forgotten Johnson was still an FBI man.
Years ago, the government appointed me to work on its top secret cases. The real X-Files, if you like. I'd been investigating everything from the paranormal, alien abduction, and crooked politicians. Whilst I was doing the job I loved, they assigned me and my team to this Bicella person living in Boston. We were told she was practicing witchcraft and was linked to many virgin women and young adolescent girls that had disappeared over the last decade. In fact, my superiors had a list of missing females, which dated back centuries. But through an informer, the federal agency paid a lump sum of money for me to meet her, so I went along posing as a wizard.
Wait, stop right there.
The captain insisted, for laughter had filled his belly so fast that he was about to pop any second. As he'd tried his best to look away from the agitated man, but it was simply no use. His cheeks had puffed up too much, giving him no choice but to open his mouth and let it all out.
Did I say something funny?
Let's just get this straight. You went posing and pretending to be a wizard to meet a witch.
Yes, the bastards forced me to wear a long blue trench coat with matching shoes which were pointed, like the giant hat they stuck on my head, a fake mustache, and a beard which concealed a small high-definition camcorder with a built-in microphone. They even gave me a black walking stick to walk with and pretend it was a magic wand.
What happened when you arrived there?
I managed to find her house. It was right in the middle of the forest. I knocked on the door and got no response as no one was home, so I glanced at my watch and realized I was early. But my superiors ordered me to stick around, as my backup were just getting themselves positioned. I must have waited outside for nearly half an hour and was about to leave when all of a sudden I heard a loud noise getting louder. Someone or something was approaching me from behind. So I turned around, and that's when I saw her. She resembled a beautiful princess, nothing like the horrible witch with a wart on her nose posing with yellow and blackened teeth we were all used to seeing on TV or reading about in books. Anyway, she put a show on for me, weaving in and out of the forest trees on her automatic broomstick.
The FBI man paused for a few seconds, smiled, and continued.
It mesmerized me to see her flying about, pulling off some classy stunts with some basic maneuvers, before landing a few feet in front of me. As I continued to stare at her, she made her clothing change before my eyes. Seconds later, she parked her sweeping brush, which incidentally stood up by itself.
I bet that wasn't the only thing that stood up by itself.
Anyway, would you like me to continue?
Yeah, please do.
She smiled whilst holding her hand out to me. I didn't know whether to shake it or kiss it, but eventually we held each other's hands and walked into her house. I don't know what she did to me, but she must have done something, because within minutes we were talking like we'd known one another for years, telling me all her darkest secrets and showing me her private photos from her family album. And her best holiday snaps of her messing about in the Caribbean, jet skiing in a pink bikini on an adapted broomstick, gliding through the water and surfing through some enormous waves like a professional. As she kept talking, I switched on my concealed camcorder, trying to document any evidence I could find of the females that went missing. Around an hour later, we had dinner, and for some strange reason, I forgot what I came there for. I just wanted to make love to her, and she knew it too, but decided to interview me instead of me asking her the questions. I don't know what she gave me to drink, but whatever it was made me tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, every time I answered one of her queries.
Are you a proper wizard?
She asked me, and I ended up telling her not to be so bloody ridiculous, and at one stage I advised her to grow up. Moments later, the princess, sorry I meant witch, stared into my eyes and straight through me and said,
Would you like to do what the birds and the bees do with me inside my bedroom?
What did you say?
John interrupted as the story became rather interesting.
I told her I wanted to rip off her underwear with my teeth and make crazy, passionate love to her until the cows come home and go back out again.
With or without your fake moustache and beard?
She said, whilst laughing, causing me to laugh too. And after we'd stopped laughing, her face turned serious, and she couldn't wait to ask me if I was Van Helsing.
Who the bloody hell is he? Many years ago, he was the Vatican's top hitman.
A demon and witch, plus a vampire killer who had a 99% kill record. I guess she thought I was out to execute her, so when I told her I wasn't him and had no intentions of killing her, she went mad in a split second. I could feel the hatred coming off her face as I watched her fingernails grow at least 7 centimeters each, and before I could say, "Wow, lady, this has got to be a mistake," she grabbed hold of my beard and yanked the bloody thing off and threw it to the floor, causing my concealed camcorder to fly out towards her feet. That's when all hell broke loose, for she started chanting some evil spells that made the entire house rock from left to right. Even her black cat panicked and gave me that terrified look before yelling at me, "Meow!" 10 times he said it, as if he was saying to me, "Son, you're on your own, and if I were you, I'll get the hell out of here fast." He then leaped through an opened window, making a quick getaway, leaving me to deal with the witch. As I stared at her, I saw her eyes change from blue to red, and she had somehow suspended herself in the air, hovering at least 4 feet from the wooden flooring. With her head almost touching the ceiling, panting hard like she'd just passed the finish line of the annual London Marathon race, getting ready to do something bad to me. I could feel it coming any second, but just then I heard somebody shout,
Get down!
Which was followed by gunfire. My backup had burst in from nowhere, and she was being shot from many directions. But despite the odds stacked against her, she put up a brave fight, while all I could do was watch, for I was still under her spell and had no real control of myself. She killed 4 of my men, but as she lay on the floor dying from gunshot wounds, I crawled over to her and held her in my arms, and for no apparent reason I told her, I was sorry, it was all my fault, I love you.
Are you a lunatic, Johnson? How could you tell the bitch, "Forgive me, I meant witch," something like that?
I was under her spell and would have done anything for her. She could have had me eating my dinner off her lap if she'd wanted to.
What happened next?
My colleagues set the house alight with her in it, which eventually burnt to the ground, but while it was raging in the back of my mind, I heard her say,
"I'll get even with you one day. This I promise you, Agent Johnson."
A day later, the forensics started searching the crime scene and eventually recovered female body parts from the various ladies and girls that went missing over the years. But Bichella's carcass was never found, and her name was never mentioned again until you opened that envelope. Somehow she survived.
2 hours later, the dynamic duo had worked out the best route to take to meet the witch. And despite Johnson's horror story, the captain was actually looking forward to meeting her, for he'd already planned to hit her over the head with something solid like a table leg and eat her while she's unconscious if she gives him a hard time or tries to put another spell on Johnson. Later that evening, he ordered the FBI man to instruct the first military zombie officer to have the army ready to travel to Brockenhurst. The dynamic duo had planned to stop there for a day or two before moving on to Bramshaw. Meanwhile, the skeleton had returned to his master from delivering her invitation.
What news do you have for me?
I delivered your envelope, my queen.
That's great. Any word on the resistance that's been murdering the zombies?
I've located them. They've been hiding out in the New Forest during the day, and come nightfall, they've been hunting the savages in the nearby towns.
She smiled as it was almost too good to be true. She'd sent out her most untrusted warrior to complete 2 complicated tasks, and he completed them both.
What the hell's going on here?
She asked herself before ordering him to have her army of green zombies prepare to battle with the resistance.
What now, my queen?
That would be nice.
I just got back.
Look, just do me this one favor. Destroy the zombie hunters before they move on, and I will grant you your freedom.
Okay, my lady, how many of them shall I take with me?
All of them.
I don't think it's necessary for me to bring all of your 5,000 bald-headed savages into battle with me. We've got 250 to 300 armed civilians, the most, hiding out in the forest.
Look, just do as I say. I'm sick to death of watching them messing about doing nothing all day. If you don't get them out of my sight, I'll end up killing them myself. And I've already killed 10 today.
An hour later, the skeleton led the witch's army out on foot to embark on a journey which would see them walking through the night and for the best part of the following day too, leaving them with more chance of perishing from exhaustion or dehydration than dying on the battlefield from a bullet or a sword.